Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here, and in this, the 41st episode of the American Reveille podcast, we talk all about the Trump campaign apparently distancing themselves from Sidney Powell. In fact, this statement came out here. It made me cringe just like it made all of you cringe. But there's an actually absolutely deeper thing going on behind the scenes. And in this episode, I'm going to reveal to you exactly what's happening and why you shouldn't panic. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here. It is Monday, November 23rd. This is the American Reveille podcast, the 41st episode, and I'm here to talk to you today all about Sidney Powell. Now, you know, for the last week or two, we haven't been scripting this. So, like I said last week, if there's a couple little boo-boos or hiccups or forgetfulness on my part, I do apologize. I did do the first 39 episodes fully scripted, fully written, but I think it's time for me to break out of that shell. So, I do appreciate your patience, and I know I do a particularly good job, so thank you very much for that. So you won't have to worry too much. But again, remember, this isn't going to be scripted. There shouldn't be any edits. It's going to be very minimal, unless, you know, if I screw something up superbly and I sit here going, duh, for 20 seconds, I'll probably edit that out. But most other things, I'm not going to edit out. But today, what I want to talk about is money. This is all going to come down to money. And the Democrats may make it seem like it's money maybe not going to a certain lawyer or people distancing each other because they are ready to fire somebody or because there isn't evidence. They're trying to make this horrible spin like something terrible just happened. And I am seeing it all over Parler, all over Rumble, all over Facebook, the remnants of Twitter, all over social media. People from both sides are freaking out. The left, heavy duty going on and on and on, all about how Trump is done. There's no evidence. They're distancing each other because of the conspiracy theory behind all of the Smartmatic and Dominion software out of Venezuela. All of this crap that they're peddling. And then a bunch of weak Republicans on the right caving and cowering and acting like the world is over. The end is nigh. I keep hearing it. I keep seeing it. I keep having to lift people up, and I'm okay doing that. If it's my job to put forth some inspiration or motivation to people, if that ends up being my calling to guide some folks to the right decisions and right choices, then so be it. But I'm amazed by how many people don't seem to have the heart to continue. And it makes absolutely no sense to me because we are winning. Guys, strategy, okay? It isn't as simple as you think. 2020 has been an absolutely historic year where things we just never expected to happen, didn't think could be possible, just were not ever even conceived, have happened this year. And so the results that we normally expect are not happening. Things are happening topsy-turvy in bizarro world, and this is just where we are, and we have to accept that right now. So you have to understand that besides the mounting evidence that shows Trump is going to win, it's completely possible just based on the fact that reality is doing something very strange right now, folks. It's doing something very strange. So besides that, you know, before we talk about this, I wanted to say welcome aboard to Jessica Lay. That's our newest writer, and she's got a couple awesome articles out. You should check them out on the website, www.americanreveille.com. Already blasting well over 1,000 reads per article just in the last couple days, so very proud of that, and I'm glad to have her. I think we're going to get a lot more traction from our articles. And besides that, we've been just venturing more and more into video, looking at ways to expand this movement, include more of the fan base, grow the fan base, and really spread the message that we're trying to spread, uniting the right, getting those values, those traditional values to be cool again, to be mainstream again, getting the word out that the left is up to no good and this great reset is on the horizon. I hate to say it. I hate to sound like a Alex Jones lizard person conspiracy theorist, but some of these things just seem inevitable. And when I see dozens of world leaders screaming the Great Reset, Build Back Better slogan, including Sleepy Joe Biden, the guy that thinks in La La Land he's the president-elect, it makes me concerned. And this company, I want it to blow up. I want it to get large. I want it to get big. I want to provide livelihoods and provide shelter and provide togetherness, provide community for us on the right. Because even after Trump wins, we have a long, long fight ahead of us. We have to accept that we're going to have a decades-long fight ahead of us against this leftist, socialist, crazy ideology. Regardless of what you think, even with the Democrats losing their majority type of appearance in the House and the power in their base, it's only shifting more radical towards this socialist. That's part of what's eroding away at the Democrat Party that seems to be falling apart at the seams. And a couple months ago, I did do a podcast episode called Operation False Phoenix, where I did predict that the Democrat Party was going to collapse and split possibly into two separate parties. So if you want to go dig that up, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it's just probably a dozen episodes ago. Sorry, I didn't write that down. Like I said, we're not scripted, so I'm doing everything I can off the top of this big bald noggin. Guys, all right. So, and by the way, if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, do me a favor, subscribe. Please leave a review. That really helps with the algorithm. We get more people listening. If you are watching on Rumble, do that little Rumble thing where you click the little button. I'm not sure how it works yet. I'm still learning Rumble. If you're on, not on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. Please comment. Just share the hell out of this stuff. They have censored us to the max, so everything we're doing is manual. It's word of mouth. We are busting our humps. My knuckles hurt from the hours and hours and hours of notification. And by the way, everybody commenting on Parler at the James Lane on Parler for the American Reveille, I am trying my best to get to a lot of your comments. Parler is still working on their system, I guess, of how their comments are generated and compiled. Be patient with them. They're new. They're working on it. We are building up an empire on Parler, but it will have to get better over time. And unfortunately, the system they use for their comments makes it very difficult for me to catch all of the comments. And we're now getting hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000+ comments a day. So it's very, very difficult for little old me to get crunching on. I'm a veteran. I can hustle. I can hump. I'm full of multitasking grunt power. But at the end of the day, I only have two hands. I'm not an octopus. So I do and will do the best I can. But I want you to know I do see them. I do try my best to get to them. And I will eventually find a better system to get to all of your comments. So let me get a drink here, actually. I am parched. How's your morning doing, by the way? Good Monday morning. It is a beautifully cold ass Monday here, 30 minutes south of Seattle, somewhere around the Puyallup area. Sorry, guys. I got to hydrate a lot. I talk a lot. My voice it has to get its exercise, basically. So it gets its exercise through that gigantic, ridiculous looking water jug. And I do, again, apologize. It is kind of obnoxious. But anyway, I'm rambling. I want to get into this. I want to talk to you about what's going on. The Trump campaign. Let's start reading here from the Gateway Pundit. The Trump campaign. Sidney Powell, not a member of the Trump legal team. And gosh, when I saw that, it was like a gut punch. And like I said, I saw social media explode and all the gold badges start throwing out their repetition of just echoing what's going on again and again and again, panicking. And I said to myself, let me stand back. I don't want to just throw this stuff out there without really knowing what the hell's going on. And as the night progressed, we really got a better idea of what was happening. This is Kristen Taylor, published last night, November 22nd. The Trump campaign issued a statement Sunday night announcing Sidney Powell is not a member of President Trump's legal team. The statement was posted online by campaign attorney Jenna Ellis on behalf of lead campaign attorney Rudy Giuliani. Powell had appeared at a campaign legal team press conference earlier this week alongside Giuliani and Ellis. We saw her there. We remember that groundbreaking conference. We were all talking about how she's dropping carpet bombs, and then we saw this, and it freaked us out. This right here, the Trump campaign statement from the legal team, on the legal team from November 22nd, 2020, and it reads, quote, Sidney Powell is practicing law on her own. She's not a member of the Trump legal team. She's also not a lawyer for the president in his personal capacity. That's at least how CNN would want you to read that. But the truth about that top statement right there, and by the way, that's by Rudy Giuliani, attorney from the president, or for the president, Jenna Ellis, the Trump campaign's senior legal advisor and attorney for President Trump. They released that statement. But you have to really look into it. It says she's practicing law on her own. She is practicing law on her own. Of course she is. She's a lawyer practicing law. And she doesn't have any lawsuits filed in the name of Trump. She never did. She's not a member of the Trump legal team. She hasn't signed anything. Did she? We'll find out as we go forward. She's not a lawyer for the president in his personal capacity. It's worded very, very particularly. His personal capacity. They're trying to create a gap for legal reasons, but there has to be a reason why. Again, we saw this. It made our stomach cringe. We were terrified. I know a couple people who called me and were terrified, asking me if they think that if I think Joe Biden is going to get the victory tomorrow, if Trump would concede. I told them, hell no, just wait. We have to read more into it. You guys have to have more conviction of your, more character of your conviction. I don't remember the phrase. I think I'm saying it screwed up. You have to be dedicated and committed to the things that you are putting your words to, your mouth to, your mind to. Like, for example, our support for Trump, right? Our support for this legal team going forward. I know things get scary, but you have to put your faith into some of these things. You have to put your heart into some of these things. You have to sometimes, when you're gambling on the poker table, just put all the cards down and bluff. And sometimes you have the flush, and I believe they have the flush. But guys, you have to keep your intestinal fortitude. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I know it's come out a little weird in the last couple minutes, but what I'm trying to get at is you have to keep your nerve, your war nerve. You have to know we're in that last inning, that ninth inning right there. We've got the bases loaded. We're about to get a home run. We're about to score, a grand slam. And you can't lose your stomach for this at the last minute. And that's what I think is kind of happening with some people. They're not used to being tested like this. But guys, this will make us better. We're humans. We're humans. And the animal that is a human is built. We're built for this hardship. We're built to adapt to it, to get better from it. We're built to learn. We are the original computers before we invented computers. I know a lot of people don't remember that, but there was once a time without computers, and that was us. We had an abacus before the calculator. Okay, guys, you will go through some crap, but you will be better from it. We will be humbler from it. We'll be better people, better friends, better family members, better fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters from it. This is good for us, okay? But you have to hang on. You can't just lose it every time you see something that appears to be bad news. And even if you got bad news, there is a longer fight after this. And you need to be resolved for that. You need to screw yourself on tight for that, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get back to this. I know I keep ranting a little bit, but it is the podcast Monday. So I figured, why not? We could ramble a little bit. We'll go a little longer than my normal videos do. Let's move over here and take a look from what came out of what came out of General Flynn's mouth. General Flynn right here, all right? This is the Epoch Times. General Flynn, Sidney Powell staying the course will prove alleged election fraud. This is by Jack Phillips, again, from last night, November 22nd. Again, as the night unfolded, we received more information. And a lot of this people aren't really seeing. I'm noticing this isn't getting around a lot. And, again, a lot of the gold badges out there, a lot of the blue check marks out there, gold badges referring to Parler. If you are not on Parler, by the way, get on Parler, Parler, in the App Store, or if you're on the computer, www.parler.com. I don't work for them. I don't get any money from them, but they are the platform for conservative voice right now. They do not censor. They do not sequester. They are not going to harm you or dox you or screw you because you're on the right. So if you're hearing this and you got it from a link on Facebook, or you're listening on Apple Podcasts, or you're finding it just randomly and you're wondering why nobody talks to you anymore on Crapbook Facebook from Zuckerberg or on Twitter, just get on Parler. Come find me at the James Lane. Come follow me, and you'll hear the news. You'll actually know what the hell is going on, because you can't trust the mainstream media right now. Folks, General Flynn, all right, the leader of us digital soldiers, I guess you would say, the quasi-leader, General Flynn, Sidney Powell staying the course will prove alleged election fraud. General Michael Flynn, a former Trump administration official, said lawyer Sidney Powell is staying the course and will prove election fraud after the president's legal team said she is not working for the campaign on Sunday night. All right. Powell, who represented Flynn in his legal case, has been suspended from Twitter for 12 hours. And by the way, doesn't that seem convenient that right after the announcement from Trump, she would be suspended so she couldn't respond to that? Doesn't that seem like that might be creating a 12-hour window for the leftist media, the mainstream media, the communist news network, and the MSDNCs of the world to create their own narrative about what's going on without any worry of retort or rebuke from Sidney Powell? I think that is a little more than coincidental sounding. I think that's probably what the hell happened. All right. Let me take a sip here really quick. Maybe I'll edit those out. Maybe I won't. Unless you don't care, you'll have to just watch me drinking for 3 or 4 times during this long episode. But guys, it's just you and me. I don't have any other hosts. I don't have any guests on here. It's you and I having this conversation. So if I'm going to have a sip of water, you have a sip of water, we can all have a sip. Maybe have a sip of something a little better. It's early in the morning for me, and I've got to go to work after this, though. So there isn't going to be a sip of anything better than water. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but not for me. I have work to do after this. Anyway, let's keep going. Look. Quote, she understands the White House press release and agrees with it. All right. And we're talking about that release right here, the Trump campaign statement on legal team, the one that freaked everybody out. She understands the White House press release and agrees with it, Flynn said. She's staying the course to provide the massive deliberate election fraud that robbed #We the People. That's us. We the people of our votes for President Trump and other Republican candidates. Remember, this is going to trickle the hell down. Quote, Sidney Powell is practicing law on her own. She's not a member of the Trump legal team. She's also not a lawyer for president in his personal capacity, Giuliani said on Sunday night. He did not elaborate. Last week, President Donald Trump said Powell would be a part of his team and representatives. Powell appeared alongside Giuliani and Trump lawyer Jenna Ellis several days later, making claims about voting software companies being involved in a transnational conspiracy to overturn the election. And that has to do with Dominion voting systems. We're going to read about that a little bit right now. Doesn't have too much to do with what's going on. I mean, it will in the long run, but with the actual video we're doing. But I do want to say, if you don't know much about Dominion, go to www.americanreveille.com or look in my Parler feed at the James Lane at the James Lane. We just did an article about scratching the surface of Dominion systems. Jessica Lay, the new writer we have who's really kicking some ass, she did this great piece that really kind of just touches base on the main points of Dominion and kind of presents it to you in a really good way that allows you to consider a lot of the information coming in and make some of your own judgment. And she might actually do a couple more articles pertaining to that article, but take a look for that on the website, on the Parler feed. That is an article called Scratching the Surface of Dominion Voting Systems Corporation. I believe it's Dominion Voting Corporation, Dominion Voting System Corporation. I don't remember. I'd have to pull it up, but we're in the middle of this, so I'm not going to go too far off into that segue. Guys, Dominion Voting Systems, one of the software companies she mentioned, categorically denied her claims. And that's what actually happened today, or not today, yesterday, when you watched on Sunday, when they brought the Dominion representative on CNN, no, not CNN, Fox News. They're like the same thing now, so I keep confusing them, CNN and Fox News. They're pretty much sellouts, and Tucker's disgusting me lately, so... Anyway, they brought the Dominion guy onto Fox News, and he vehemently denied all of this crap. And there are recordings from previous years, where other representatives have actually said yes to the questions he said no to. So it's kind of wacky, and they're all just trying to save their skin. It's really kind of a crap show. It really is a crap show. They are falling apart, and they're trying everything they can to hold it together. But the Dominion Voting Systems software rep guy, whatever he was, the representative, he denied the claims. He said it's not possible to flip votes to candidate Joe Biden. And then Sidney Powell got suspended. She got suspended from Twitter, right after that happened. It says right here, Sidney Powell has been suspended from Twitter for 12 hours. She understands the White House press release and agrees with it. She is staying the course to prove the massive deliberate election fraud that robbed we the people. I read that to you. That's from General Flynn. He gave us the warning about Sidney Powell. She referenced a partly redacted affidavit from a person who claimed to have witnessed the software being used to steal an election for Venezuelan socialist strongman Hugo Chavez, and claimed to have worked for the Venezuelan military years ago. The affidavit was subsequently filed in federal court as part of a lawsuit by Lynn Wood, another attorney who is associated with the Trump campaign. Chavez died in 2013. Folks, that right there is evidence. And if that's what she got suspended for, if that's what they're saying they suspended her for, it's absolutely unequivocally ridiculous. It's not right. It's not fair. It's not constitutional. These not mainstream media, these social media companies, these big tech media companies have been going absolutely nuts. They've been going absolutely nuts, and they've been abusing their great monumentous power, and we need to chop them down. They need to be restricted. They need to be chained. They're like the Minotaur. They're like some sort of mythological creature that needs to be chained and dungeoned because they are out of control. They're literally flying around, burning down villages. I mean, hypothetically, if they were a mythological creature, that's what they'd be doing. But honestly, they're really overstepping their boundaries to a point where I think charges should be brought up on many of the CEOs, Jack Dorsey included. I think he's high as a kite while he's doing his interviews with the or not his interviews, but when he was testifying to the Senate Council, the Senate Judiciary. It's absolutely mind-boggling to watch what's going on. It really is absolutely mind-boggling. All right, look, It's so much. It's hard to pull it all together, she said, before explaining that the team would file a massive lawsuit of biblical proportions. And by the way, that's something that's supposed to be happening today or tomorrow in Georgia. This lawsuit of biblical proportions. We're supposed to see something crazy happening. I did say on a video earlier yesterday, that something big was going to come in Georgia, and we might even see Brian Kemp and some other people implicated in a pay-to-play scenario where you are taking contracts with Dominion in your city, in your state, and that's guaranteeing you elections. It's like being in a band and having to pay for all the tickets so that the place you're playing in still makes the cut. And maybe people show. Anyway. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He's literally gaming the system, if that's true. I am not sure what the biblical proportions will be, but I'm sure it's not going to disappoint, guys. And none of this stuff so far has disappointed. So if you are actually one of those people that are kind of dismayed by some of this news, I need you to snap the hell out of it. I need you to toughen up. I need you to strap in, because this is not over yet. We're in the fight, ladies and gentlemen, all right? It's a massive project to pull this fraud claim together with the evidence that I want to put in. So obviously, there's more that she wants to do here. There's more Sidney Powell wants to do. And that's just not everything that I'm presenting you. There's a lot more that's going on as well. Take a look at this right here, okay? This is from Lynn Wood. This is Trump's attorney, Lynn Wood. This happened after that statement was released. Check this out right here. This is Lynn Wood. Sidney Powell, at Sidney Powell 1, and I are more alike than we are different. We are fighting different legal battles for the same clients. We, the people, that's us. All interests are aligned. Fight back. And this is when Dinesh D'Souza seemed to have some doubt in his heart. I love Dinesh D'Souza. I love his stuff. But again, even prominent people seem to be having these moments of weakness. And we need those people to all toughen the hell up and really harden themselves for this fight, because it's not over and we're still fighting and there's more to come. And Trump said, look, they're saying, oh, he's quiet. Oh, he's golfing. Oh, he's this. He's proving his point. What did he say the other week? He said, don't ever bet against me. What did the election commission guy say? He said, if Sidney Powell says she has evidence, I believe her. Well, I believe her too. And I think you all need to believe her as well. So if you're having doubts, take those doubts off. All right. They're not good for anybody. All right. You need to be taking care of the people that are, you're responsible to. You need to be making sure that their head's in the right place, and your head needs to be in the right place if it isn't. So if you're having some issues with this, chill out, take a breath, get some perspective, bring everything back to center, and really get a perspective, like I said, for where you are, what's going on. Be mindful of your surroundings and get back to basics. All right, guys, it's not rocket scientists. There's some crazy stuff going on. I get it. But we are on a certain side of this fight, and we have to stay in the right mindset and give our support to our leaders. It's a leftist tactic, and it's an ancient old school strategy to discourage and dismay the people. Because if you take the fight out of the people, they no longer support the people that are fighting. And Trump's fighting for us. So if we no longer have that wind, that fire in our belly, if we no longer feel that energy, that lightning in our fingertips for what's happening, for our right wing, our Republican movement, our getting back to our basics, getting back to Americanism, getting back to patriotism. If we don't support our president in that, it's all going to slip between our fingertips, because when he loses our support, he then loses the will. That can't happen. We can't let that happen, and we're not going to let that happen. And that's why going through this is important, and that's why people like Dinesh D'Souza and all of these other folks out there, these heavily circulated famous folks, need to keep the faith. You know who I see keeping the faith all the time? And you probably agree with me if you know who I'm talking about. The actor, Anthony Sabato Jr. I see him all the time. He's never shifted his views. All right? So if you're going to be in this, be committed to this. Be committed. All right? Until it's time not to be. Be committed. And there won't be a time when it's not to be. Folks, we're going to keep going with this because this isn't the end of the evidence I have. And this isn't the end of the case that I'm presenting you. Just like they're going to be presenting a case to the Supreme Court based upon the narrative that the Democrats prescribed. Remember the other month when they said we're putting Sidney Powell in and she's going to cheat. You know, she's illegitimate. And we're going to cheat and blah, blah, blah. It's going to get to the election and she's going to unfairly pick Trump as the blah, 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 blah. They picked this narrative. They suspected something like this was going to happen. I don't think they think they're going to win. I think they think by blaming us, they're going to save their party. But in fact, they might start a freaking war. They're out of their mind. But we're going to keep going. Give me a second. Let me get another sip here. I'm talking so much, my mouth is dying. I should have chewed some gum or something. Folks, we're going to move on from this to this guy right here. All right. This is Republican business interests separate from Sidney Powell. I read this. All right. And I'm still kind of looking to see who these people are and what they do. I'm not saying it's the best source on the planet, but I am saying that as a street smart person and a later educated person, I understand multiple angles and take a look at things, and this seems pretty legitimate, and I kind of agree with a lot of the thought pattern behind it because I've looked into some of this, and we're going to actually talk about what I've looked into after we read this. But this is the last refuge. This is a story again called Republican Business Interests Separate from Sidney Powell. All right, folks, again, it's about money. When it was clear that candidate Donald Trump would win the Republican presidential nomination in March or April 2016, the RNC specifically, I always forget how to say his first name, so I'm just going to call him Priebus, salivated at getting their hands on the Trump campaign donor files. Politics is a big business. I like that graphic, by the way, the rhino and the elephant ramming each other. Historically, the GOP was dependent, and by the way, if you're listening, because there's a lot of people watching, sometimes we forget that this is also on Apple Podcasts and on all of the other audio podcast platforms like Spotify, all that. We're available everywhere. But for the people listening, there is a graphic I'm looking at, and it's pretty dark and dystopian-ish kind of looking, and it's this wrinkly rhino and this big old honking wrinkly elephant with his tusks out, and they're just boom, bashing each other, just ramming each other and holding each other at bay. And it's a pretty cool piece of art there. But anyway, let's get back to the topic here. I want to read this to you. Historically, the GOP was dependent on big major donors and Wall Street for support, but the Trump small donor army shattered all Republican records for contributions and showed a completely new grassroots donor base. Tens of millions of middle-class Americans fueled the MAGA movement and stunned the Republican establishment. And as you've seen, ladies and gentlemen, the Republican Party has changed forever. We have all this new blood. We have so many new females in the Congress. We have so many new minorities supporting us because we're doing the right thing for the working people. That is what we're doing. We are changing the stereotypes associated with the Republican Party, and we are shattering the mold and shattering the records. It's just what it is, folks. As an outcome of the massive data file, the contractual agreements to share with the Republican National Committee, the RNC became flush with money and transmitted the file to other GOP members in down-ballot races. Essentially, Trump represented access to millions of previously hidden Americans, and that's why your emails and phones blew up in 2020 with pleas for contributions from every outlier GOP entity, the vultures in the business. Just stay with me. Just stay with me, guys. Within the business part of the GOP, there are massive territorial fights amid those who live on the donations from within political campaigns. And folks, there was a movie, I forget what it was called. It was a documentary, and Matt Gaetz did it, and it was on HBO. It still is on HBO, and I'm sure if you have HBO and you just look up Matt Gaetz, you'll see his documentary come up. I wish I could pop it off the top of my head. In fact, you know, this is a podcast. We're recording it. I might as well just look it up. Let's do that real quick. Matt Gaetz. I am typing this in. HBO documentary. I don't know him. I don't associate with him. I'm just giving him a little plug out of the goodness of my heart. It's called The Swamp. The Swamp, ladies and gentlemen. It was good, and it detailed the donor, the rich people. There's a place across the street from the Congress where you go and schmooze with rich people and companies to get money. And both the Republican National Committee and the Democrat National Committee expect you to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in dues. It's absolutely nuts, but it was really, really good. I watched it a little while back. It's called The Swamp, and I saw it on HBO. Anyway, let's get back to this. Guys, let's see, where were we? Essentially, Trump represented access. We read that the vultures in the business, that's where we were. Within the business part of the GOP, there are massive territorial fights amid those who live on the donations from within political campaigns. The Trump MAGA file is being exploited like a bloody carcass dropped into a pool of piranha. And once you know how the business end works, then a lot of other stuff makes sense, including this, the legal team statement I read to you today. And I'm thankful that you stayed with me this long in my rant and raving. Awesome, though, 41st episode of the American Reveille podcast, which now I'm not doing a commercial break in the middle because I'm freestyling this whole thing. But I'm glad you're here to now finally get to the juicy, ooey gooey, delicious part of this podcast, where we show you why the hell this stuff is actually happening, okay? We read this earlier. The Trump campaign statement from the legal team, Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, they both said right here, quote, Sidney Powell is practicing law on her own. She's not a member of the Trump legal team. She is also not a lawyer for the president in a personal capacity. Folks, let's keep reading. This is all about who is getting paid by the campaign and RNC. The Trump campaign isn't going to reimburse Sidney Powell for any expenses, nor is she allowed to make offers of financial payment from the GOP or Trump campaign. Think about what you have to do sometimes, by the way. Let's put a little marker here so I don't waste your time. Think about this for a second. If you're an investigator and you're trying to get sworn affidavits and you're trying to get witnesses and you're trying to get evidence and you're a lawyer, not a cop, you don't have the same code of ethics. You have to bribe people sometimes. You have to financially reward them. You have to tell them, if you give us this evidence, we'll protect you. You have to pay for all of this stuff. And the president can't ethically pay for that. He can't do that. He can't take money from people to fight, you know, Joe Biden in the way that they're fighting. It's not ethical for the president to be involved in that. So if she's got to do some dirty money stuff, and you know the left is just licking their chops, looking for anything to try to impeach Trump again, or God forbid he got out, put him in jail, and it's not happening, so don't worry about that, but they would do anything for that. So Trump has to be extra squeaky clean, like a rubber ducky floating in the bathtub, and just as orange according to the left, but not very true. Listen, guys, Trump can't be involved with that stuff, all right? Listen right here, all right? The vultures assembling and protecting their paychecks do not want Powell getting paid, nor do they want any financial liability. That's all this statement is. All right. This statement by the Trump campaign has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It's directly related to those interests who derive financial benefit from the Trump campaign. The same network of vultures exist on the DNC side of the equation, and they exploit Bernie Sanders donor files as well. Folks, this is all true. This is true stuff. Even though I can't necessarily vouch for this site as well as I'd like to, and I'm going to do more research on it so I can try to better vouch for it later. I know the details about what he's talking about, so I know for a fact it's not BS. I do. And you've trusted me this far. You've seen that nothing I've said has come out to be wrong. You've seen that I've led you on the right path, so I ask you to trust me on this one as well, all right? This statement by the Trump campaign, like we said, has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It just has to do with the financial people involved. RNC chairwoman Ronna McDaniel has enjoyed a high life of cocktail parties and lavish expenditures as a result of her position and control over the Trump data files. So too have a host of other entities and organizations that have been sending text messages for money. And that's just how they roll. The announcement is all about the money and nothing more. Carry on. I mean, and we're seeing a lot of rhinos out there. We're seeing folks flip. I mean, you have to understand something. I want you to imagine something real quick. Think about this for a second. Say you make $40,000 a year, $30,000 a year, $20,000 a year. Say you make $60,000 a year. Say you make $150,000 a year. You're living okay at that. You're living pretty damn good at $150,000. You're living pretty damn good at $80,000 compared to some people at $40,000. And the people making $40,000 feel pretty damn good about themselves compared to others that are less fortunate. And people work very hard to get just to $40,000, to get just to $50,000. Some people work their whole life just to get to $15,000 an hour. So you have to understand that there's nothing we can really do to comprehend the lifestyle that some of these people live. Unless you're making $400,000 or $500,000 a year, enough to crack that millionaire barrier and not have to do anything yourself and get accepted into that other world, we're never going to know everything it is they do. You've seen some of that Alex Jones stuff where they have the actual films of those millionaires and billionaires doing that, that Oak Island sacrifice, effigies to the owl god Moloch stuff. It's not BS. Sounds like a conspiracy again, but it was proven. And it just goes to show we can speculate all day long on why they were doing that. There's no definitive answer, although we all can pretty much guess. We don't know what it's like to wake up as somebody with Joe Rogan's money, with $100 million in the bank. What do you do? What is that? What do you do when you don't have to worry about anything? Do you start your day with a bowl of Wheaties? Do you have an omelet? Do you shave before you take a shit? Do you shower first? Is there a different? I'm sure there's a whole different world, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure you're smart enough to understand and know that as well. So when I tell you that there's some Game of Thrones level crap going on in the world of the affluent right now, it's not a joke. It's not a lie. It's absolutely possible. And it just is what it is. Literally, we have a giant chess game full of rich people and a bunch of money leeches attached to all of them. That's really what's going on. And if you still don't believe me, we can keep going. We can prove some more stuff. Look, this is Michael Flynn Jr., all right? Michael Flynn Jr. right here, the son of General Flynn, all right? He released this statement from Sidney Powell, all right? This is what she had to say. She said, "I agree with the campaign's statement that I'm not part of the campaign's legal team. I never signed a retainer agreement or sent the president or the campaign a bill for expenses or fees." Do you see that top line right there and all that legal jargon? It's about the money. They want to make sure that nobody's trying to nail Trump for being corrupt or anything crazy like that when he's accusing them of corruption. He's probably going to use that executive order from last year that has to do with foreign involvement in corruption or some other type of power against corruption. And you probably need to be super squeaky clean to use that power. Think about it. There has to be something going on here that relates to that, because that's total legal jargon. I bet if you ask Ben Shapiro about line 1 there, he'd say the damn same thing. And I am nowhere near as smart as that guy. Nowhere near as smart as that guy, though we may share some of the same heritage. Anyway, my intent has always been to expose all the fraud I could find and let the chips fall where they may, whether it be upon Republicans or Democrats. The evidence I'm compiling is overwhelming that the software tool was used to shift millions of votes from President Trump and other Republican candidates to Biden and other Democrat candidates. There it is again, other Democrat candidates. It's going to trickle down. We are proceeding to prepare our lawsuit and plan to file it this week. It will be epic. We will not allow this great republic to be stolen by communists from without and within, or our votes altered or manipulated by foreign actors in Hong Kong, Iran, Venezuela, or Serbia, for example, who have neither regard for human life nor the people who are the engine of this exceptional country. Hashtag we the people elected Donald Trump and other Republican candidates to restore the vision of America as a place of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And you may assist this effort by making a non-taxable or non-tax deductible contribution to www.defendingtherepublic.org. Hashtag Kraken on steroids. Folks, the Krakening is here. That right there can then be correlated with Sidney Powell here verifying to this person, yes, it's real, because they said, I don't trust this. I've never seen her ask for donations. It was about Sidney Powell having an actual 501c4 to collect these donations. Yes, it's real. Sidney Powell said it right here. A 501c4 to launch this fight. We have to get staff and mount a huge effort, which means they have to accept money. They need a ton of money to uncover all of this buried corruption. And it is behind 20 steel doors and 50 steel traps and 1,000 untrustworthy people and a mile of shit, a mile of slime, a mile of swamp guarded by gators. There's probably a minotaur, the three-headed hellhound, and freaking, Medusa herself. I almost said Ursula from The Little Mermaid. Medusa herself with freaking snake hair out there ready to turn people to stone. This is not an easy task. I know you're impatient. I know it's hard to wait. I know it's scary. I know you're uncertain. I know your stomach is turning in knots, but I need you to get a hold of yourself. I need you to stand up tall. I need you to be strong for the people around you that depend on you and rely on you. Regardless of what happens, they need you. And if you aren't that person, if you're not that breadwinner, you're not that person that people depend on, then there's somebody, right, that you depend on. They also depend on you for something else. And that is for whether it's your friendship, whether it's your family, your love, your affection. But don't ever think that people don't need each other. And right now, we need each other more than ever. Okay. And if you're falling apart over this crap, it isn't helpful to the people around you who really, 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 really need support. All right, folks, this is history. It happens, and we're in it. What a roll of the dice, ladies and gentlemen. What a crazy roll of a dice to be here. But since we are here, I'm going to put the popcorn in the microwave. I'm going to put on my sunglasses. I'm going to grab my Slurpee, and I'm going to enjoy the show. And I'm going to do everything in my power to be a part of steering this ship in the right direction, ladies and gentlemen, in the right direction. In this time, more than ever, we need much more than hope. We need a beacon. We need light. We need a voice. We need the people all of us to come together and stand up to this radical leftist ideology, this socialist Marxist takeover, this redefining of our history, this redefining of our dictionary, this invasion, this capturing, this sacking of our school system, this critical race theory menace, this Black Lives Matter terrorism, these Antifa terrorists, it all needs to go. None of this, again, I'm going to say it one last time before we end this podcast, none of this has to do with race. This is all class versus class, old school strategy BS. Win an election, tear us apart, slip in the socialism, great reset, end of day. We aren't going to let it happen. This is America, and it won't stand. Folks, that was the 41st episode of the American Reveille podcast, and I appreciate you so much for sticking with it, for being here, for understanding what this meant, for not freaking out about what was happening with the Trump campaign legal statement. Like I said, don't panic. There's nothing to worry about. Please do me a favor, guys. Please do me a favor. I want you to come on Parler right here. If you aren't already on Parler, join Parler. Follow me, The James Lane. All right. I run the American Reveille. We have writers. We're recruiting more writers. If you have a passion for writing, or you do digital art, or you have some sort of skill that you would like to contribute to the ground floor operation of a blossoming and booming building company, folks, I mean, this is an opportunity. There's not much, if any, pay in it, but eventually there might be. But remember, the American Reveille has some core values. We're never, ever, ever going to take money from big name sponsors that deal with leftist organizations or are a leftist organization. We're never going to take money from big name sponsors before we work with mom and pop shops and grassroots operations. The American Reveille LLC, we support Kyle Rittenhouse. And if we had a lot of money, we would donate to Kyle Rittenhouse. I'm going to say that for my company, and this is a veteran-owned and operated company. Ladies and gentlemen, not everything is always what it seems. In this world, what's happening right now is a change of our definitions, a change of the textbooks, a change of what we understand. So it seems confusing, and of course it should, because they have basically tarred and mined and muddied the battlefield. They've changed a lot of the rules. They've changed what racist means. All right. That's why you don't get it when they call you racist, because we're not. You're not. My wife is not white. My wife is brown, and she's had white people call her racist. This is a topsy-turvy world, ladies and gentlemen, and we have to use all of our combined will to bring it back to balance. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have an awesome Monday. We're going to release videos all week. We're going to have more articles for you all week. I hope you kick the crap out of your week, and you better yourself, better your family, better your knowledge, build yourself up. I'm working on the reading list. A lot of people have requested that. It's a lot bigger of a project than I thought, but it's coming along. We're building it, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. www.americanreveille.com, or you can email me directly, jameslane@americanreveille.com. Folks, have an awesome, awesome day. I'll see you next time. Cheers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is President U.S. Grant, Ulysses S. Grant, unconditional surrender grant. And I propose we get rid of the Grammys, we get rid of the Emmys, and we start the Granties. And the Granties would be given to extraordinary Americans who worked their butt off and came from dregs and came from hardship and failed and learned hard lessons and still overcame their utter animalistic humanity and rose to great heights to do great things for this country. But I digress, because I'm not here to talk to you about the Granties. I'm here to talk to you about coming to Parler from whatever social media you're on. And if you're already on Parler and you're seeing this, that's great too. But I want you to go to our Parler page here for the American Reveille. It's at The James Lane. The James Lane, Lane. The American Reveille. I am James Lane. I'm a veteran. I'm the owner and operator of the American Reveille. And all you got to do is come to Parler, sign up, and follow me. You'll see a little follow thing here. Here, look, we can go to Megan Kelly's. You see how it says follow right there? You want to follow me on Parler, if this thing will ever go backwards. There we go. And be one of the 7,500 people that love the American Reveille. We are patriotic. We are in your face. We are here for you, for the right. We the people, for the people. And we are fighting the good fight as digital soldiers against the left. The more people that join our cause, the more we can spread the message and we can beat down this evil leftist ideology. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, you're probably watching this on Rumble. And folks, Rumble is going to take down YouTube. It is the rising platform for uncensored voices, including many of your favorite conservative voices, including me, James Lane, here at the American Reveille. So when you're watching this and you're on Rumble, you're going to see right over here this little subscribe button. I need you to hit that button and subscribe to the American Reveille on Rumble. I need you to share this. I need to get the word out because we are a community and we are right. We are righteous. We are on the right path to victory. The left does not stand a chance, and we will prevail.